Hi everyone, welcome to the Brick Garage and my first ever action figure stop motion video tutorial. I've had a lot of people asking me lately how I do my stop motion videos, so I figured the easiest way to show you would be to actually create a stop motion video from start to finish and show you each of my steps in the process along the way. Everybody's process for making stop motion will be slightly different, but there are going to be some major things you're going to need and going to want to look out for when you make a stop motion video. My stop motion videos, just like any other video, can be broken down into three major categories: pre-production, production, and post-production. For part one, let's focus mainly on pre-production with a quick look at the production. Pre-production is where you're going to come up with your idea, your script, your location, and the gear you're going to use. Let's jump over to my stop motion animation table and we can get started. Ha! Okay, so here's my idea. I'm gonna use these two Spider-Man action figures, Spider-Man and Miles Morales, to do a synchronized dance video called Spider Dance or something along those lines. For stop motion purposes, these action figures are now called puppets. Okay, so that's it. We've got an idea. Let's go look for a reference video and figure out a script, although we're not gonna need much of one for a dance video. A script doesn't have to be complicated, but it does have to guide your shots that you're going to make in your stop motion video. For this particular video, I'm not going to bother writing a script. I just have a general idea that I want to do a dance video with a couple of Spider-Man characters. So for that, I've spent basically hours finding what's called a reference video. TikTok is really good for this because you can download the videos to your computer. And so I found a dancer named Vic White, and he's teamed up with another guy named Aubrey Fisher. And I've seen these guys before. They do sort of Michael Jackson style dancing. This particular one's on a pier. And I'm going to basically try to copy their dance, but with the Spider-Man figures. Now the only thing is I need the Spider-Man to arrive in the scene, so I want them to swing in. We have to have some kind of Spider-Man-like action in this video. So I'll find some kind of a reference for them to swing in, they'll land, and then start their dance. Okay, so now that we've got our concept and our reference video, let's head over to the animation table and we'll check out our camera gear, our rigs, and get the puppets out of their boxes. Stop motion is extremely time consuming. So to make stop motion properly, you need to have a space that you can completely take over and control the lighting and the furniture. You don't want anything moving or changing while you're doing a shot in stop motion. So the Brick Garage is my stop motion animation studio, as well as being my garage and my workout space. I do a lot of stuff in here, but I've made it all work in the space that I have, and I'm able to animate uninterrupted, more or less. In the Brick Garage, I can block out light from the windows, I can set up film lights, and I can leave my shots set up if I don't have time to finish a shot or it's too complicated to get done in one day. That's very important because you don't want things to change over the course of a shot. We talked about the puppets first. I'll just show you guys these figures. There's the Spider-Man figure. Super awesome. I love these figures. And here's Miles Morales, the other Spider-Man figure. Also really cool looking. I have removed from the boxes their hands because I probably will swap out hands in the course of this animation. So there's Miles and Spider-Man. And of course, as I mentioned, I want the Spider-Man to swing into the scene. So I've pulled a piece of web out that they'll swing in on. This is probably something I could do in post-production, but at the very least, this is gonna act as a guide for me as I animate over top of it. With the figures are these clips that go on their stands. I think I might be able to use these. They might help me secure the figures during the animation, because the problem with these figures is their backs are cloth, so it's going to be hard to affix my stop motion rigs on them. So I've pulled each clip out, and I may have to take care of that in post-production. I'll either use Photoshop or some kind of a roto brush in After Effects to remove that. We'll get into that in the post-production part of the video later. So here are my rigs. I would get these from Kinetic Armatures, which is a guy based in Barcelona, Spain. This is an XY winder rig. There we go. So look, you can manipulate this forward and backwards and up and down. I think in this dance video, these rigs might be quite helpful, although I have to admit I haven't used them much. I really just picked these guys up. They're quite expensive. You can see there's holes in the base, so you can screw them down, and you can turn the weighted base either way. To weigh down my bases further, I have some steel plates. These are quite heavy. This is probably about 5 pounds. So I have several of those that I can just slap on the base to keep it in place. You'll notice I put a sheet of green down. I haven't decided on my background for this video yet, so I'm still working out what I want to do. The advantage of putting green down, obviously, is that I can insert a background later. Although to do green screen properly, you want to match your lighting to whatever the background is going to end up being. So you do still have to have that plan in place before you start. So as well as the XY winders, I also have these, which are standard stop motion rigs. Also, both from kinetic armatures, and they feed into, I believe it's 1/4 inch brass piping, although I believe it's probably metric, so it's something like 30 mils. So the brass piping is how you would then attach to the figure. A standard stop motion figure would actually have some kind of hole this size in the body, generally at the back. These are action figures, so I don't have that. So I have to come up with a way to get this piping over onto the action figures. So what I've done in the past is I 3D printed these pyramids which fit the brass piping right in them. I've got that wedged in there, it's very tight. So I have a few of these which I insert the brass piping in. I've got different lengths, and then I put sticky tack. Generally, I like to use the extreme Scotch mount sticky tack, which I'll put a piece on here and then stick it to the back of the action figure. So it will look something like that. This might work for Spider-Man. His suit is a little more rigid. So yeah, that might be a possibility for some of the shots I'm going to do. The other thing you're going to find is you need to stick down your figure's feet. So there are several ways to do this. One is that you can drill holes in your stop motion table. I don't really want to do that because it's going to make a big mess, and then I'm going to be stuck with holes in the table, or the stop motion stage, I should say. The other thing that I've started to do is use sticky tack. This UHU Pro Power tack, I've used the dark color in the past because it's easier to hide, although if I could find a green one, which I haven't found yet, that would work. I stick this onto the ground and put the character's feet into it, and then I'm able to lock their feet in place. So sticky tack as well. You need to basically, anything that might shift while you're animating, you need to control. So you gotta have all kinds of options for sticky material. Let's get these guys out of the way. Now, these rigs are all very expensive. So a budget idea, and this is how I started with stop motion, is what's called a third hand. You can pick these up on Amazon for not too much money, and they actually come with arms out both ways and these clips on the end. So you could find different ways. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to attach that. The clip actually came off. You could find different ways to use these clips to attach to your stop motion figures. I've invested enough now that I have these big rigs, but this is a perfectly reasonable way to start. They're not very much money, and you can find them fairly cheaply on Amazon. I'll try to link to those in the video description. As well, I like to have a hair dryer on hand. Strange, I know, but changing of the hands and feet on these figures, they tend to lock up, although the Spider-Man does seem to be changing fairly easily, but all it takes is hitting it with a hair dryer for 20 seconds and everything loosens. So the hair dryer is a useful tool to have on hand as well. I also like to have lots of armature wire. I have different sizes. You can get rolls of this on Amazon. And I use this occasionally for this. This might be a good one for Miles Morales because he has a softer suit. So I've covered this in black paper tape, which is a film gear product. There's some black paper tape, which I always keep handy. And you can just take the armature wire and wrap it around the waist. It's actually not quite tight enough. I would want to get that tighter to animate with because you can see it's moving around slightly and I wouldn't want that. And then attach this with my brass piping and some tape likely. And then I have another way to rig my figure. So really you just need to be creative. It's all about problem solving, finding different ways to attach your figures. There is one guy online who almost convinced me to, who just drills holes in his figures and attaches that way. I don't really want to destroy these guys. I find them so beautiful that I don't want to shoot holes in them. I may resort to that at some point if I get more serious about this, but in the meantime, I'm gonna use things like armature wire and then just take more time in post-production to fix it up. Okay, now let's look at the camera, lighting, and animation software that I use. I have spent years and literally thousands of dollars setting up the Brick Garage, but you don't have to go all in at the beginning. What you will need though is a camera, some kind of a stand to lock it in place, lighting, and some sort of a remote trigger to trigger your camera so it doesn't move when you're animating. You can do all of this in a smartphone. You just need a stand for the smartphone and a way to trigger it remotely. And there are apps out there, including Stop Motion Video Pro, etc. I have a few of them and I've made stop motions on my phone as well. Okay, so here's the camera I use. It's the Sony a7 III. It's a full frame DSLR, so it's quite a high-end camera and it does take really nice pictures. I use a 24-70 zoom lens. That way I can change the focal distance even within a shot and I don't have to move the camera around. I can just hit the zoom and change what I'm seeing. So I find the zoom lenses quite helpful. I know a lot of people shoot with prime lenses, which are just a fixed focal length. But for me personally, I prefer the zoom lens because it gives me a lot of range. And the 24-70 is a good range. Look how much closer in I can get there. I sit it on a Manfrotto tripod head, which I then have attached to a Kessler Cine slider. The Cine slider I actually picked up from my old live action video work, but there is a way to program in shots and you can use it for stop motion. I tend to just do it all manually, but you can program shots. And one of the beautiful things about this slider is there's a joystick over here. There it is right there. I leave it off to the side of my shots, and when I move the joystick around, I can slide the camera. So I can do complex camera moves. There. So there's the Cine slider in action. It's quite good. Over here, we connect with a USB-C over that way. There's my PC sitting over there. So that's my desk space located directly beside my stop motion animation studio. So everything's quite condensed in here, but it makes it easy for me to work. So this is my second monitor for my PC, which I've got on a swivel that can swing over and be my reference monitor for animation. So I've got Dragon Frame set up now. Right now it's in the DMX part of the program, which allows me to adjust the lighting. I've set up several lights. I'll just show you the overhead right now. So there, I have it listed as the overhead in my Dragon Frame software. And then to dim, I just grab here, pull it down, and you'll see the lighting go down on screen. See? There we go. And dimming up. That's it. So I can control all the lighting. I have something like 31 channels. I think the overhead is the highest. That's controlling all the lighting in here. And it is controlling the lighting that's shooting me for this video too. So that's quite a powerful tool. That's basically like a small single universe lighting console built into my animation software. I'm a lighting technician in the film business in my day job, so I knew how to set up a complex lighting system. Again, you don't need this. You can just use regular lights. So I have custom built a bunch of LED fixtures. And I put them in extrusion, and I've created a whole system to plug them in. This is very similar to the system we use on the TV show that I work on. And all of these fixtures have multiple color options. So I'll just show you this fixture here. There's the channel 6. Look, I can control this dim up and down in Dragon Frame. This is the daylight channel of the fixture. So there's daylight, that's warm white, that's tungsten. And then there are color options too. Blue, these are going to read a little different because we're shooting right at the fixture, green, and red. So, and I've used these lights in several of my videos, including the Darth Vader video where he ignites his lightsaber to create reflections. So I'm going to put the daylight channel back up. So there we go. So my lighting setup through Dragon Frame is very complex. I probably have 20 lights like this that are all around the size of the figures, so it's sort of like professional film lighting. scaled down to 1/6 scale figures. And I'm able to, I have all these lines plugged in all over the place, which I can then control new lights as I bring them in. To drive all of my DMX controlled lighting, I have these drivers scattered around my studio. I've got about 20 of them. So now it's time to animate. Let's have a brief look at the very tedious production of this stop motion video. So here's the actual production journey of this video, captured in time lapses. You'll notice I made a few changes to my initial plans, but overall the video is what I wanted it to be. It took me about a week of animating and then several weeks after that of editing. This video took a really long time, way longer than I wanted it to. But you know, that does tend to be the nature of stop motion. It always takes longer than you think it's going to. So here's the unedited, uncleaned up version. I actually had a lot of trouble removing the rigs in the front, so that was a bit of a mistake. I'm still learning something every time I make one of these videos, but overall I'm pretty happy with the finished product. So for the next video tutorial, let's go through the post-production and how I finished off this animation. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, like, and share the video if you found this helpful.